My name is Stigma. I'm also a person in long-term recovery. I get to introduce Brian Torby, my son-in-law. So first, thank Brian and Chrissy not only for what you do to and for us in the community, but for what you've done to my family and for my family. Thank probation, people at First Steps, and the county for support and treatment. So before I met Brian, I heard about him from my daughter. I heard about this wonderful guy, a lot of fun, nice guy, wonderful, and I could see that, man, she was smitten by this guy. You know, that means she was in love. It was in the beginning, so they hadn't had a date yet, so they couldn't admit it. She's like, how do I get with this guy? So anyway, you know, they hooked up, and over time, you should have seen that wedding. It was on St. Patty's Day. It was a lot of fun, but on, you know, one side was like too much. So, you know, the man I met was a nice guy. He was a friend. He was fun. He was a good conversationalist. He could talk to you about anything. And he was really good with the kids. Not a lot of guys are. But over time, that started to change. And at one time, Jen comes to me and says, can we move back in your house? We want to save money. And I'm like, no. And the family talked me into it. And like, they moved in, and I'm like, what, am I nuts? So, you know, like, I want to trust them. I want to give them the freedom, but my gut's screaming. And there's a thing in the AA Big Book. It talks about pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. So I come home, and no longer is the nice guy there. No longer is the conversation there. I come in, he goes downstairs. He did a lot of wash in that first couple months. Like, I think he broke the washer and the dryer in the first month. But my gut was screaming all the time, and I had returned to Al-Anon just because I was like crazy. I want to help this guy. And, you know, like, we talk about powerless. If you're sitting in this room, you know what I'm about to say, and I see people shaking here. You love somebody, and you know they need help. You try to offer it, and they tell you that it's not necessary, and you just go nuts. So I went to Al-Anon, and the woman kept telling me, I got a woman sponsor, she kept telling me to shut the F up and go have a life. He knows who you are, and if he wants help, he'll come to you. And then when he did reach out for help, he wanted, my daughter said, don't ask my dad. And you know, because if they asked me, I'd be one of them, like, you know, Nazi. So, you know, I'm talking about the gut, and I want to emphasize that, because we know when something's wrong. There's a story about the emperor with no clothes, where he walks in the town, he's naked, and everybody knows it, but he don't. And, you know, like, everybody knew what a beautiful man this guy was, but him. And everybody else knew what he was doing on the side. So I got a story, and my daughter will tell me I'm exaggerating a little bit. So Brian was, you know, doing the drugs and on Suboxone, and he wants to go on the Vivitrol shot, which blocks the opiate. And he asked me about it, and I said, at least 3 days, 5's the recommendation, don't take anything, nothing. So I see him Monday, I go, how'd that work out for you? He goes, not good. He said, I took Suboxone the night before, and I got the shot. And later on that day, he said, I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to go into a seizure, because he went into complete withdrawal. And he asked my daughter to take him to the hospital. She said, no, suffer. And he said he was trying to yell out the window for the neighbors to call an ambulance. And she shut the window. So a couple months later, it was Friday before Christmas, and I get a call from his P.O., and thanks for coming, man. And he says, if you can get Brian to bed today, I won't put him in jail. And I called Stacy, I called a couple other people, no beds. I called him back, and I said, Matt, don't leave Brian go. Am I dying? Like, I'm not. To be honest with you, I was like, I don't want to talk to you on Monday and him be dead, and I didn't get him to bed. So, you know, to make a call to tell, you know, your loved one put him in jail. That was the best thing for him. It's a hard call. Pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. So he didn't go to jail that weekend, but like a couple in February, end of January, February. Matt made the call, and I'm calling you out because it's appreciated. You helped Brian, you helped our family. And so Brian did a couple months at Stony Lonesome, and then got out and through the courts, and Stacy went the first steps and did his time there, and then Stacy made the recommendation that he goes to MVP, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the answer. And you know, after a year of MVP, hey, we have our friend, we have our loved one. My daughter has her husband, I have a son. You know, Brian came to me in the summer, and he had to make amends the night step. And we sat down, and I'm thinking, man, I got a list. Because I had a list of his enemies. Everything that ever was missing in the house was his fault. Right? So we sit down, and he makes amends. I go, well, what about this? He goes, listen, I might have, but I don't think so. I go, what about that? He goes, Dave, I wouldn't do that to you. And I'm like, what about this? And I'm like, I don't know what to do now. But I realized in that conversation, like, the hurt was the trust, the love, the listening of my friend. And that was, like, how do you make amends to that? You stay sober. So, him being here, us being able to do this is amends beyond my wildest dreams. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank all you guys, especially you, Brian.
I'm Brian, I'm an alcoholic, and yeah, thanks Dave. Yeah, Dave pretty much summed it all up for me. You know, what got me here was not, you know, you know, he said it, I was a nice guy, and I kind of knew that about myself, and my intentions were always good. With my wife, with my, you know, friends, loved ones, being a man in my trade, I hang my hat as a mason on my trade, but my actions never lined up with that. And you know, with my legal status in 2018, and me trying to always take the easier, softer way, as we say in AA, that's all I was doing, and I was being completely dishonest with myself, not anybody else. You know, Dave would look at me, I could always tell. Certain people would look at me at the side of my face, they hear me saying these good things, but no actions ever lining up with it. And yeah, in February 2018, I did a couple months in George W. Hill, and then it got me humbled. It wasn't the first time I was humbled, but you know, I had lost everything. You know, my wife had left me. You know, I had a home that was in shambles. You know, a lot of debt, a lot of stress, and I didn't know it then, but it allowed me to maintain a certain level of humility. You know, a jumping off point, we say, that allowed me to make a decision like come the MVP, because I knew that I knew AA had like an answers with a spiritual solution, and we fix our emotional condition there, but MVP shows us how to conduct ourselves like men and women, where we stand up and we deal with things and not run away and buck in fear. And that's what I did every time, not ever being like considering my wife or my loved ones, you know, because as alcoholics we suffer from this self-centered you know, obsession of the mind. And you know, I just want to thank everybody here, thank MVP, and thank you for allowing me to do this.